Okay, so I want to demonstrate a little bit about making a custom fiberglass enclosure for 370Z. This is going to be designed to sit even with the top of the spare tire and hide completely under the carpet. So here's a finished product over here. I did this one already. Kind of a goofy looking box shape actually. That's an 8 there. Could have probably cut it off in here and still had plenty of box enclosure volume. So I measured this with water to be about 0.6 cubic feet. But that's what it'll look like at the end, and I'll show you at the end. The amp will be sitting right on top of the center of where the spare tire is, and also concealed under carpet. Be about a 1-inch air gap above that. So it's going to be a completely stealth installation. And having run the 1.8, I realized the other day I didn't really need another 8, because with all the cabin gain in this car, it's already plenty loud. This is an Image Dynamics. It's supposed to go really low, and it does. Never heard an 8 like this. It goes easily below 30 hertz. And you really don't, and with the box this size, I think it comes pretty close to its resonant frequency as far as frequency response, which is 22 hertz. It's pretty amazing. So what I've done over here, should have shown it with just the masking tape, but I taped off the entire area. Can pull this back a little bit. I also put aluminum foil as a second layer just in case. But I've got it all taped off, as you can see, and one layer of masking tape, and then I added some get the smart this time, because last time I almost felt like I would have to sledgehammer the thing out, the mold, the fiberglass out of the car. It was stuck. I had to really pull hard on it to get this one over here out. I got smart this time, and I added, buying my materials, by the way, I should say that. Well, first of all, let's talk safety. Safety glasses, because this is some nasty stuff. Methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. Use this whole gallon on the first box. A gallon will wet out about 32 square feet of 1.5 ounce mat. So I'm buying my stuff from US Composites, obviously, and this is some layup resin. Here's my new gallon for this container. Got some measuring cups here I used to pour it out. Let's see. So the way it works is you pour that in. Here's my mixing container, and then you add some drops of this stuff, and then mix it up good. Then it hardens. It's really nasty, volatile organic compounds that come off of this polyester resin. And here's my respirator, and I have some pretty good ventilation here. I got air coming in, going through the building here. Safety glasses. Anyway, so I got the resin, all my stuff from US Composites down in Florida, and their shipping is really quick, 3 days easily. So this time I also, well, hang on, I forgot to show you. So I got smart this time, and I decided to use this also from US Composite. I bought some PVA mold release. PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, I believe. Meant to be sprayed on normally. I use a little rag and run around where the painted, the masking tape was masking the painted surfaces. The ones that had aluminum foil on, I found last time, were somewhat easy to get off, but this stuff, normally you apply this over you wax first to make a nice smooth surface, and then you apply this, and it's supposed to make it release really easily if you use an actual, like a rubber mold. But PVA is also the main ingredient, I believe, in hairspray, a couple other things. Some people, I think, have even used like Pam cooking spray. That's a different chemical, of course, just vegetable oil, but So hopefully this stuff will keep my first 2 layers from sticking. In addition to that, I also have, since I'm using layup resin, which by the way I recommend, because if you want to do fiberglass and you're a beginner like I am, you don't want to have to rush through the whole thing, do the entire job in about 24 hours, which is what you wind up having to do if you go to the store like Walmart and get Bondo. That's called a finished resin. It's got wax in it, and what happens is polyester resin needs oxygen-free environment in order to cure. So the outermost layer, a couple molecule thick layer, will not cure until you put some wax on it or seal it off somehow from oxygen, paint it, whatever. It'll just be forever tacky tackiness to it. So what they do in finished resins is they'll have a wax that's mixed in. It'll be paraffin wax. It'll be mixed in with the Bondo, if you're using Bondo or any finish resin, and it'll actually come to the surface as it cures, and then it'll when it dries, it'll be the wax layer will be the very outermost layer, and so the entire thing will be able to cure. But if you're using a laminating resin, which is what this is, you see laminating, aka layup resin, it doesn't have any wax in it, so you'll have to add some at the end. This is what this is, surfacing wax. You add this to the very last layer that you do. Also got that from US Composites. But the point I was trying to make is if you're using just a finishing resin like I said, Bondo at Walmart, and that wax, you let it sit too long, that wax will come to the surface, and you'll wind up having to sand off an entire, you'll have to sand the whole thing before you can do the next layer, and that's a complete pain to have to do that. And that's actually where most of the hazard with fiberglass, in my opinion, comes from, is that's the main reason I have the respirator, not only for the vapors, which are harmful enough, but worse than that, probably far worse than that, is the little fiberglass particles. When you're sanding and cutting it, stuff is everywhere. It gets itchy, gets in your skin. You definitely don't want it in your lungs. Probably similar to, damage to, say, asbestos in your lungs. Come back and bite you later on in your life, something like that. But with this layup resin, now I can put a layer down. I'm gonna do this layer in the car. I'm gonna do 2 layers here, and I'm gonna let it sit and cure for the day. At least say 5 hours or so, nice and hard. It'll cure more or less in an hour. It'll be a hardened surface, but it won't. I don't want to remove it until probably about 5 hours, and then so then I can take it out and I can do the rest of the layers in the car, and it'll be, at my leisure, I'll be able to add more layers without having to worry about that wax coming up to the surface and forcing me to sand and get, make a mess. So I'm gonna be able to just do the layers in here, let it dry a bit, pull it out, do more layers, and then I'm gonna do a layer here. I gotta make this bend on this side as well, and then I gotta do the lid, attach it to the MDF ring all around, and then I'm going to well, that's basically the project. Gotta make sure it's got a nice seam all around. But yeah, I recommend the layup resin to avoid having to do any sanding. That way you only have to sand at the very end. And then at the very end, to get rid of any residual tackiness, uncured stuff, I haven't even done it to this one yet, and there's still a little odor it's giving off because there's still some uncured resin here. Need to go back and mix in a little bit of this into some of your resin and brush over the whole thing, and that should take care of that, and you'll have a final layer that's got a wax outermost surface, and then alternatively, I've heard you can just take some of your PVA mold release actually, and just apply that to the surface and then wipe it off, and that's supposed to create that oxygen barrier that will allow the whole thing to cure. I think acetone will wipe away uncured resin as well, but I'm gonna try the PVA. So gotta get going here, I guess. Oh, one more thing. Notice in here, I've got a lot. See, this is where a wire is. You notice in here, I've also been careful. You see the car has these little rubber flaps that's supposed to relieve pressure. There's some under here as well, and here. And I've made sure to leave a gap here so that air can get through there. When you close the door or something, it's supposed to, in theory at least, relieve some pressure. So, it's not uncomfortable air pressure build up or anything. There's a pair of those over here as well. So I use styrofoam. I have this whole big giant chunk of styrofoam I've been using, as well as cardboard to make some clearances. I got some cardboard in there. And where I've had bolts, which this side had a lot of bolts, I've just used some little chunks of styrofoam, and I tape over that, and I try to make a smooth surface. And another thing you want to do, you want to make sure the box is somewhat easy to remove. It's good that you have some surfaces to keep in place, some contours and stuff. Like this box over here, it doesn't move because it's got, I made it too big. And you notice I'm going smaller here because I didn't need all that airspace. It just made it harder to take in and out. So over here, you want to make what's called positive draft. When you don't want any surfaces that are angled. You want them angled positively. You don't want them angled inward like that. You can't pull something out when when the bottom is wider than the top. So the idea is to keep a little bit of positive draft in here, and these surfaces, try to make them a little shallower so that you don't have to pull the box up so far. For instance, to clear where this wire bundle goes. That's from these wires up in here, right under here. So, made it all smooth. And that's about it. And I'm gonna start, what I do is I just start dabbing. I like to lay my cloth down first, as you can see, before I mix the resin. That way it's all ready to go, and all I gotta do is start dabbing. But I will, I guess I'll go ahead and show you mixing. You buy your resin. US Composite sends this cool instruction thing with it. To every ounce you need 10 drops of your MEKP hardener. So that's the little chart. You can go by gallons or quarts or whatever. I go by ounces because I like to mix a half cup at a time, or a cup. So for a half cup, it's 40 drops because there's 4 ounces in a half cup. So cup, you're looking at 80 drops of the stuff. 80 drops is well, I don't know how much that is. Should probably get smart and figure out the here's some, the conversions. Here's another one they ship. You see they sent a little measuring cup thing with it. I'll get smart, I'll figure out how to use that. For now I'm just using drops because it doesn't take that long to squeeze out 40 drops or 80 drops. So let's see. That's about all there is to it. Also ordered a bunch of disposable brushes. Cheap brushes, these are like 80 cents a piece. Like 10 of them, because you're going to go through a lot of brushes. I bought some acetone this time too, so that can clean up a little. Here's a 1-inch roller I use. Helps you roll the air bubbles out. That was a major problem last time. So that's another thing when you lay your mat down. Try to use relatively small pieces, because you go for giant pieces, you're gonna have air bubbles. It's just really hard to get it to lay down when you got huge pieces going around curves and all that. So let's see. I've got a stirring stick and a brush. So I'm not going to show on video because this is somewhat hazardous chemicals. I don't want to get all on my phone, but I'm going to pour in this cup. I'm going to pour a cup of that out. And I'm going to add 80 drops of this. And then I'm going to just take my stirring stick and stir. Notice I have a somewhat shallow pan. Use a shallow pan. It's a little tip. It allows you to work a little longer before the stuff will harden. It'll give you, instead of, say, like 20 minutes, maybe 25 or 30 minutes to work with the resin before it gels up on you. It's a shallow pan. It's an old cookie container. I'm going to use that, and also makes it less likely to tip over and spill. And then you're going to stir it for 2 minutes. And then you're going to take your paintbrush and you're going to start dabbing and brushing it into the mold. And it's kind of self-explanatory, you'll figure it out, but you know. Okay. Before I start, also forgot to mention gloves. This time I got some neoprene, heavy duty, reusable. My plan is to, that's why I bought the acetone, to try to wash these off so I don't have to. Last time I used nitrile, light duty. Probably was mistake one going to light duty, but I looked it up and apparently nitrile is a poor barrier, poorly resistant to methyl ethyl ketone peroxide, MEKP. And in fact, it did kind of, it actually once or twice ate entirely through the glove. So I wound up with like half gloves by the time I was done. I had it all over my hands. And then at the end of every day I had to clean, it was, gelled polyester resin is pretty hard to get off your hands. Acetone will do it most of the time, but it's still like, it's miserable. So I'm gonna use these. Also, I forgot to mention, last time I had an issue, got fiberglass. I put my hand here, apparently I'd climbed out of the car, got fiberglass all over my tail light. I was able to fix that, fortunately, with some very careful use of a razor blade and some polishing compound. So this time I've got this over it, over the left side. So, okay.